I paid my family's bills for years, then they kicked me out for my irresponsible brother, so I cut them off and watched them fall apart. Hey, everyone. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we are. A friend of mine said I should post this here, and honestly, I could use an outside perspective. My name's Sam, a 26-year-old male, and it feels like I've been the one keeping my family afloat for as long as I can remember. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. You know the type: good grades, did my chores, never got into trouble. However, my younger brother Mike, let's just say he got the favorite label early on, and it stuck. He's 2 years younger than me, and while I was the one doing everything right, he was the one getting spoiled. I'm talking better gifts for Christmas, more leniency when he messed up, and just less pressure overall. Don't get me wrong, I love my brother, but it's always been clear he's the golden child in my parents' eyes. Fast forward to adulthood, and not much has changed. I've been working steady jobs since I was old enough to work. I started out doing stuff like landscaping and worked my way up to my current gig as a project manager for a tech company. It's not glamorous, but it's stable, and I've always been good at saving and staying on top of bills. Mike, on the other hand, took a different route. He's always had this dream of being his own boss, which sounds cool in theory, but in practice, it's been one failed venture after another. His last business, a small electronics repair shop, closed about a year ago, leaving him in a tough spot. Mike's married to Lily, a 24-year-old female, and they've got 2 little kids, Noah and Ellie. They're adorable, and I've always tried to be the cool uncle when I can, but let's be real, raising kids is expensive, and Mike and Lily haven't exactly been great with money. I get it though, times are hard for everyone. What I didn't get was how my parents decided to handle the situation. See, I've been renting the basement suite in my parents' house for the past few years. It's a good setup. I've got my own entrance, a small kitchen, and enough space to live comfortably without feeling like I'm intruding. I pay rent, and I chip in for groceries and random household stuff when they need it. Everything was smooth sailing until about a year ago when Mike lost his shop. At first, he and Lily tried to make it work on their own. They moved into a smaller apartment and started cutting back, but it wasn't enough. I knew things were tight for them, and I tried to help where I could. Buying diapers here and there, offering to babysit when they needed a break. But apparently, my help wasn't good enough. It didn't help that Mike always seemed to prioritize the wrong things. I once gave them money to cover groceries, only to see Lily showing off a new handbag on social media the next day. I don't know where their priorities were, but it definitely wasn't on the essentials. One day, I came home from work and found my mom and dad waiting for me in the kitchen. Now, when my mom has her we need to talk face on, it's never good news. She started with, "Sam, we need to have a conversation about Mike and Lily." That's when I knew something was up. They didn't waste time breaking the news. Mike and his family were moving into the basement suite, my basement suite, and I was getting shoved into the hobby room. Just so we're clear, the hobby room is this tiny, cluttered space on the main floor, where my mom stashes her sewing machine, piles of fabric, and a bunch of random holiday junk. It's not exactly what you'd call livable. I was stunned. What? How am I supposed to live in the hobby room? I asked. My dad, ever the man of few words, just said, "It's the only thing that makes sense. They have kids, Sam. They need the space more than you do." I tried to keep my cool, but it wasn't easy. "I pay rent here," I said. "That's my apartment." My mom's response was classic. "It's our house, Sam, and as a family, we need to do what's best for everyone." Basically, that was their logic. Because it's their house, my contributions, rent, bills, helping out, didn't seem to matter. Mike's needs came first, no questions asked. I wanted to argue, but it was clear their minds were made up. My mom was already talking about how they'd rearranged the hobby room to make it cozy for me. Like throwing a pillow and blanket in there would magically make it okay. My dad just sat there, clearly not interested in discussing it further. The worst part was that they didn't even ask me or ask for my opinion. They just decided, and I was supposed to go along with it. After they dropped that decision about moving Mike and his family into the basement, it didn't take long for things to spiral. I tried to keep my head down and just deal with it, but it felt like every little thing was a reminder that I wasn't even a priority in my own family. The move happened fast, too fast. It was like one day the basement suite was my home, and the next day, I was kicked out of it. Mike and Lily didn't waste any time settling in. Toys, baby gear, their kitchen stuff. It all showed up in a whirlwind of boxes, strollers, and noise. Meanwhile, I was stuck trying to cram my life into the so-called hobby room. Let me tell you, calling it a room is generous. It's more like a glorified storage closet with barely enough space for a single bed, no window, no proper door, no privacy. I tried to make it work, I really did. But every day, I felt more like an afterthought. Mike and Lily settled in like they owned the place, and my parents acted like everything was fine, like I wasn't shoved into a closet. I'd come home from work to find toys scattered everywhere, the kitchen a mess, no sense of privacy at all, and the food, they barely left anything for me when I got back from work. I was trying to keep it cool and brush off the stupid details. But I reached a point where everything was building up inside me to the point where it started to affect my focus and productivity at work. So, I tried to talk to my parents about it the next day. Look, I get that Mike and Lily are going through a hard time, I started, but this isn't fair. I pay rent, I help out, and now I'm stuck in a storage room while they get the whole basement. My dad didn't even look up from his phone. It's temporary, he said. How temporary? I asked. As long as they need, my mom said simply, like that explained everything. And that was it. No negotiation, no acknowledgement of how unfair this was. Just a vague promise that things might change someday. To make things worse, Mike didn't seem to appreciate what he was being given. I'd hear him and Lily arguing late at night about money, their kids, or whatever else, and it was hard not to feel resentful. Here I was, giving up my space so they could have a roof over their heads, and they couldn't even keep it together. One night, I overheard them arguing because Mike had splurged on jewelry for Lily, claiming he wanted to cheer her up, even though they hadn't restocked the kids' formula. It made me question why I was even helping at all. One day, I came home to find Noah, my nephew, playing in my room. He'd gotten into one of the fabric bins my mom left in there, and was pulling out spools of thread like they were toys. "Look, Uncle Sam," he shouted, holding up a tangled mess of yarn. "Hey, buddy," I said, trying to stay calm, "this isn't a playroom, okay? Can you go back downstairs?" Of course, my mom overheard. "Sam, don't be so harsh," she said, swooping in to rescue Noah like I'd just scolded him for breathing. "He's just a kid." "I know he's a kid," I replied. "But this is my space. What little of it I have." She just gave me that look, the one that says I'm being unreasonable, and ushered Noah out without another word. It wasn't just the kids, though. Mike and Lily seemed to forget that I still lived there. When we ran out of groceries, which we did faster than before since we had kids in the house, Mike didn't even bother to buy anything. The thing is, I don't even blame the kids. They're just little, and they don't know any better. But Mike and Lily, they should have been bending over backward to show some gratitude. Instead, it felt like they saw me as this extra roommate who was just there to pick up the slack. Things came to a head a few weeks later. I was working from home, which was already a nightmare in that cramped room, and the noise from downstairs was unbearable. I could hear the kids running around, Mike yelling about something, and Lily on the phone talking loudly enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. At that point, I lost it. I marched downstairs and said, "Can you guys keep it down? I'm trying to work up there." Mike gave me this incredulous look, like I was out of line for even asking. "It's not like we're doing it on purpose," he said. "What do you expect with 2 kids?" "I expect a little consideration," I shot back. "I gave up my apartment for you. The least you could do is not make it impossible for me to do my job." That's when my mom swooped in to play referee. "Sam, don't start a fight," she said. "They're doing the best they can." I couldn't believe it. I was the one who'd been displaced, the one bending over backward to accommodate everyone else, and yet somehow, I was the problem. That night, I realized I couldn't keep doing this. My parents clearly weren't going to stand up for me. Mike and Lily weren't going to change. And as long as I stayed, I'd just keep getting pushed further and further into the background. The next day, I started looking for somewhere to stay. I couldn't afford to move out completely, not with how expensive rent is. But I found a cheap resort that offered short-term stays. It wasn't fancy, but it had everything I needed, and most importantly, peace and quiet. I booked it for a week to clear my head and figure out my next steps. That evening, I packed my stuff, then sat down with my parents in the living room to tell them my plan. The second I mentioned leaving, my mom's face scrunched up in irritation. Leaving? What do you mean, leaving? She said, crossing her arms. I'm going to stay somewhere else for a while, I replied, trying to keep my tone calm. I need some space to think and figure things out. My dad scoffed. What's there to figure out? Your brother's family needs the basement, and we need you to pitch in for the house. You can't just walk away from your responsibilities. My responsibilities? I shot back. The only responsibility I had was paying for my own space, and you gave that away without even asking me. Now you want me to stick around and pay for a house I'm barely allowed to exist in? Are you serious? Mom let out an exasperated sigh. It's not about that. It's about family. We all have to make sacrifices sometimes. Sacrifices? I repeated, my voice rising. I've been sacrificing for years, paying rent, buying groceries, bailing you out whenever there's an emergency. And what do I get in return? A closet and a pat on the back for being such a good sport? Mom's tone shifted. Well, if that's how you feel, maybe it's for the best that you take a little time away. But don't be gone too long. You know we're counting on you. Counting on me? I exploded. For what? To keep enabling Mike's bad decisions? To keep cleaning up messes I didn't make? No, I'm done. Before they could say another word, I stormed out, slamming the door behind me. My hands were shaking as I got in my car. The first few days at the resort were blissful. No screaming kids, no dirty dishes, no passive-aggressive comments from my mom. I felt like I could actually breathe. But of course the peace didn't last long. On the third day I got a text from my mom. Sam, where's the money for rent and groceries? We're counting on it to help Mike and the kids. I stared at my phone, dumbfounded. I wasn't even living there anymore, and she still expected me to contribute. I called her immediately. Mom, I'm not even at the house right now. Why would I pay rent? Her response was exactly what I should have expected. Because we're family, Sam. Mike and Lily need that space, and they can't afford it on their own. You know how tight things are for us. I couldn't hold back. Tight for you? You kicked me out of my own apartment without asking, and now you expect me to keep paying for it? That's insane. She handed the phone to my dad, who wasted no time laying into me. This is typical of you, Sam, always thinking about yourself. Your brother is struggling, and all you can do is complain. Have some decency. Before I could respond, I heard Mike's voice in the background. Let me talk to him. Sam, Mike said, you don't get it. You don't have kids. You don't know what it's like to have mouths to feed and bills piling up. We're family. You're supposed to help. I lost it. You're right, Mike. I don't have kids. But I also don't expect everyone else to fix my problems for me. You're not my responsibility, and neither is your family. The call ended with my mom crying, my dad calling me selfish, and Mike muttering something about how I'd regret this. After the blow-up over rent and groceries, things went quiet for a couple of days. Quiet, but not calm. You know that feeling when you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop? That's where I was. I knew my family wasn't going to just let me walk away. Sure enough, a few days later, I got a text from my mom. We're having a family meeting Sunday. Everyone will be there. It's important. Now, when my mom says family meeting, it's never really a meeting. It's more like an ambush. I knew this was going to be a bunch of people ganging up on me, but part of me thought, maybe, just maybe, this would be a chance to actually explain my side. I showed up on Sunday, walking into the living room to find not just my parents and Mike, but also my aunts, uncles, and even a couple of cousins. It was like a mini family reunion, except the vibe was anything but festive. Everyone was sitting in a circle, and as soon as I walked in, I could feel the judgment. Sam, we're all here because we're worried about you, my mom started, putting on her concerned parent voice. Worried about me? I said, taking a seat. What exactly are you worried about? My dad jumped in. Your behavior lately. It's not like you, Sam. You're acting weird. Weird, of course. That was the word they always used when I didn't do exactly what they wanted. Weird? I said. For not wanting to pay for a house I don't live in? For being upset that you kicked me out of my own apartment without asking? Sam, we're family, my mom said, like that explained everything. Family sticks together, and right now, Mike needs our help. That's when Mike decided to chime in. I know this has been hard on you, he said, trying to sound reasonable. But you don't understand what it's like to have kids. Noah keeps asking why you don't visit anymore. Do you want me to tell him his uncle doesn't care about him? I swear I felt my blood pressure spike. Are you serious, Mike? You're going to use your kid to guilt trip me now? How about you tell him the truth, that I'm tired of being treated like an ATM and a doormat? Sam, my mom said, looking horrified. That's uncalled for. Uncalled for? I said, turning to her. What's uncalled for is the way you've treated me. I've been paying rent here for years. I've helped out with groceries, bills, whatever you needed, and the one time I ask for a little respect, I'm the bad guy? How is that fair? One of my aunts decided to jump in at this point. Sam, you've always been the responsible one. Your parents count on you because they know you'll step up. But this attitude of yours, it's not who you are. I wanted to laugh. Responsible? Sure. But that didn't mean I wanted to be the family's punching bag forever. Being responsible doesn't mean letting people walk all over me, I said. And that's exactly what's been happening. You all act like I owe Mike and Lily something just because they've got kids. But where were all of you when I needed help? Oh, right, you were busy telling me to step up. The room went quiet for a second, but then my dad spoke up. This isn't about the past, Sam. It's about right now. Your brother is struggling, and we're trying to hold the family together. Why can't you see that? Because no one asked me, I shouted. You didn't come to me and say, hey Sam, we're in a tough spot, can we figure something out? No, you just decided that my life didn't matter as much as Mike's. You didn't give me a choice. At this point, my mom started tearing up, which, let's be honest, was her go-to move whenever things didn't go her way. I just don't understand how you can be so cold, she said. We raised you better than this. You raised me to put everyone else first, I said. And look where that's gotten me. Living in a storage closet while Mike and Lily take over my space, using my groceries, and expecting me to keep paying for it. How is that fair? Mike tried to jump in again, but I cut him off. Mike, let me ask you something. When you had your shop, did you ever help Mom and Dad with bills? Did you ever pitch in for groceries or anything else? He looked uncomfortable. That's different, he mumbled. Oh, it's different? I shot back. Because I can't count how many times I've helped you out with money, just for you to blow it on something stupid, like when I bought groceries for your family, and Lily magically ended up with a new Chanel bag the next day, or when you were late on rent and you still found a way to get her a spa gift card. Do you even realize how insulting that is? Mike's face went red, but he didn't have a comeback. No, it's not, I said. You didn't help out when you were doing fine, but now that you're struggling, everyone expects me to pick up the slack. I'm done. I'm not paying another cent for that house. If you need money, figure it out like an adult. That's when my mom lost it. She started crying, full-on sobbing, while my dad glared at me like I'd just insulted the family name. You're tearing this family apart, she said between sobs. No, I said, standing up. You did that when you decided Mike was more important than me. I walked out of the house without saying another word. As I got into my car, my phone started buzzing with messages from cousins and aunts, all telling me I was being selfish and immature. I didn't even bother reading them. After the so-called family meeting, I decided to keep my distance for a while. I didn't block anyone, but I stopped answering their calls and texts. I needed some time to think, to figure out my next steps without the constant guilt trips and manipulations. At first, it worked. A couple of weeks went by, and while my phone was still buzzing with the occasional Sam, call us or why won't you talk to us? Message, I mostly ignored it. I even started to feel a little lighter, like maybe I could finally focus on myself for once. But then my mom did something I never saw coming. She called my workplace. I found out about it when my manager pulled me aside during a break. Hey Sam, he said, looking awkward. We got a call from someone claiming to be your mom. She said you're dealing with some family issues and might need some time off. I just stared at him, completely blindsided. What? No, I didn't ask for time off, and I have no idea why she would call. Well, I figured that might be the case, my manager said, trying to sound understanding. But she left a pretty detailed message. She mentioned some stuff about your brother and housing issues. I was mortified. My personal life, something I tried so hard to keep separate from work, was now out in the open, thanks to my mom. That evening, I called her. Mom, what the hell were you thinking? I was worried about you, she said, her tone defensive. You haven't been answering our calls, and I thought maybe you needed help. So you thought calling my boss was the solution? I yelled. Do you have any idea how unprofessional that makes me look? I didn't mean to embarrass you, she said, her voice wavering. I just wanted them to understand what you're going through. What I'm going through is because of you, I said bluntly. You kicked me out of my home, ignored everything I said at the family meeting, and now you're interfering with my job. Enough is enough, Mom. Stay out of my professional life. She didn't take it well. She started crying again and handed the phone to my dad, who predictably called me selfish and ungrateful. Your mom was trying to help, he said. You don't have to treat her like this. I wouldn't have to say anything if she hadn't crossed the line, I said. This isn't okay, Dad. None of this is okay. But it didn't stop there. The next day, I started getting messages from extended family members, cousins, aunts, even people I hadn't talked to in years. Apparently, Mike had taken to social media to air our dirty laundry. He didn't mention me by name, but the posts were clearly about me. Real family steps up when it matters, one post said. Some people only care about themselves, even when their own blood is struggling. The comments were full of sympathy for Mike. Stay strong, one person wrote. You're doing the best you can, and that's all that matters. You don't need toxic people in your life, another said. Toxic? That's what I was now, apparently. At first, I tried to ignore it, but the more I scrolled, the angrier I got. Mike was out here playing the victim, painting me as some heartless villain, and no one, not a single person, was asking for my side of the story. I thought about responding, about posting my own version of events, but I knew it wouldn't make a difference. The people commenting on his posts had already made up their minds. Besides, I wasn't about to turn this into a public spectacle. Instead, I decided to call Mike directly. What the hell is wrong with you? I asked as soon as he picked up. What are you talking about? He said. The posts, Mike. Don't play dumb. You're out here trashing me on social media, and for what? Because I don't want to pay for your life anymore? I didn't name you, he said defensively. If people assume it's about you, that's not my fault. Cut the crap, Mike. We both know what you're doing, I said. If you've got a problem with me, say it to my face. Stop hiding behind Facebook. You think I don't have the right to vent? He shot back. You've left us hanging, Sam. We're family, and you just walked away. I walked away because you and Mom and Dad pushed me out, I said, my voice rising. You don't get to guilt me into fixing your problems, Mike. You're a grown man. Act like it. The call ended about as well as you'd expect. He hung up on me, and I knew then that any chance of salvaging our relationship was gone. But Mike decided to escalate things after that call. I came home from work, and there he was, sitting on the steps outside my apartment, his car parked at the curb. What are you doing here, Mike? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. I had to see you. I can't believe this is where we're at, he said, standing up. You're really just walking away from all of us? You think you're better than everyone? I sighed, already exhausted from the conversation I knew was coming. Mike, I'm not walking away. I'm just setting boundaries. I can't keep doing this. Paying for everything, sacrificing my own life, while you and Mom treat me like an afterthought. An afterthought? He repeated, his voice rising. Do you even hear yourself? I've been going through hell, Sam. I lost my job, I've got 2 kids to feed, and Mom and Dad are barely scraping by, and now you're acting like you're the victim because we need a little help? It's not just a little help, Mike, I snapped. You took my space without asking, and now you're trying to guilt me into staying involved after everything you've put me through. I've been helping this family for years. Where were you when Mom and Dad needed money for the mortgage? Or when I was working overtime just to cover the groceries? He shook his head, clearly frustrated. You don't get it, Sam. You've always had it easier. No kids, no real responsibilities. I cut him off. Don't. Just don't. I've carried this family on my back while you spent years blowing money on stuff you didn't need. And now you want me to feel guilty because I finally said enough is enough? Mike's face twisted with anger. You're making me out to be the bad guy here, but I'm the one struggling. I'm the one trying to keep my family together. Meanwhile, you're sitting here with your perfect little life, acting like you're too good to help. I stared at him, trying to hold back the anger bubbling up. You don't get to do this, Mike. You don't get to act like I owe you just because I worked hard and made better choices. This isn't about me not caring about you. It's about me finally caring about myself. For a moment, he looked like he was going to hit me, but then he just shook his head. You've changed, Sam. You're not the person I thought you were. Maybe I've just stopped being the person you could walk all over, I said coldly. Mike didn't reply. He turned and walked back to his car, slamming the door as he got in. That night, I sat in my apartment, replaying the conversation over and over. I knew I had nothing to do with this family anymore. I knew I couldn't keep doing this. It wasn't just about the basement or the rent anymore. It was about the constant disrespect and entitlement. That night, I sent my parents a text. I love you, but I can't keep living like this. I won't be contributing to rent or groceries anymore. I'm also stepping back from the family for a while. Please respect my decision and don't contact me unless it's urgent. I hit send and blocked their numbers. It wasn't easy, but I knew it had to be done predictably. My cousins, aunts, and uncles flooded me with texts, calling me selfish and accusing me of abandoning my family. Mike, of course, was the loudest. He started spreading lies about me to the family. He told everyone I'd been hoarding money, living extravagantly, and that I'd left him and my parents in financial ruin. At one point, I heard from a mutual friend that Mike had even tried to contact my boss to warn them about how unreliable I was. It was petty and vindictive, but thankfully, my boss saw through the nonsense and shut it down. A few months later, Mike's bitterness and poor decisions finally caught up to him. He had burned so many bridges in his quest to get back at me that even the extended family started distancing themselves from him. Meanwhile, his lack of financial planning hit a new low. I heard through the grapevine that he and Lily were evicted from the house they'd moved into after my parents couldn't keep up with the mortgage. It wasn't just the eviction. Mike's actions began unraveling his own life. Lily, fed up with his behavior and unwilling to keep scraping by, took the kids and left him. He was left with no job, no family support, and no place to stay. When I found out, I'd be lying if I said I felt sympathy. It was hard to muster any, after everything he'd put me through. His obsession with revenge had done nothing but dig him into a deeper hole. As for me, cutting ties with my family wasn't easy, but it turned out to be the best decision I'd ever made. I moved to a new apartment, focused on my career, and even started going to therapy to work through years of built-up resentment.